So in today's video, I wanted to cover and go over this new article that was recently posted. I came across this on the League of Legends subreddit, where the title or headline or whatever is called Jankos. There was a chance I wouldn't play for G2 in 2022. Obviously, very, very good clickbait headline, clickbait title. It's got me interested. The G2 offseason has been so interesting, polarizing, whatever. And really one of the big main storylines coming out of the whole thing was, that Jankos and Caps were the ones running the show. They decided to kick everybody out. They were the ones that G2 was building around. So to hear that there was a chance that Jankos could have actually been removed from the G2 lineup and thinking about what that could have meant for him and his future, but also G2 and their future, is very, very interesting and something, I definitely want to go over. Obviously, this article, originally it was in Polish. I have used the Google Translate feature to actually translate it, but I did think that these comments were very, very funny. Guy says, casually posting a Polish article without any translation, refuses to elaborate. That's funny. I don't know. Reddit is stupid or terrible or whatever as it is actually funny. Sometimes it makes me laugh, but definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate it so much, and subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. With that being said, let's get right into this after a short water break. I just recorded another video a second ago, so my mouth is starting to get a little bit dry. But here we go. We have this article from cybersport.pl. Must be a Polish esports website. But the headline here is, Jankos, we have to earn the respect of the fans. And the little sub-headline here is, if I had been removed from the squad, I would have accepted it. I think the other players approach the topic similarly. I sincerely hope that that no one has the feeling that they have been cheated. Is this what obviously Jankos says? So that's, just kind of approaching it like I think you should normally, as like a business, as, hey, if this is the direction the team chooses to go, so be it. It's nothing personal. It's not because they hate me. It's just because they think that this is their best chance to win. And, your end of the deal as a player is to go prove them wrong, not to hate them or be spiteful or revengeful or whatever. And it seems like everyone's taking it that way. It seems like Wonder, isn't like super, super salty about the whole situation. Hopefully Reckless isn't, taking it too poorly. And obviously I'm sure Mickey isn't too happy being teamless right now. But again, these are guys who were friends, very, very good friends for, years, and accomplished a lot together, and things just weren't working out. So I don't really think it should be too big of a deal to move on from that. But let's get into this interview. This guy asked, the longest offseason break for you in years is coming to an end. Did you manage to feel the difference? Which, yeah, this is crazy. I don't know if people understand this. If you don't make it to Worlds, your offseason starts in what, August? You get from August to January off. And if you make it to Worlds and go deep in Worlds, potentially your offseason is November, early November, mid-November until January. You're talking less than 2 months off, if not hopefully, 2 full months off. But if you don't make it to Worlds, you get 5 months off or something crazy. So this is something that obviously is nice in some ways, but obviously really, really sucks because it means you didn't make it to Worlds. But definitely a whole new experience for a guy like Jankos. And also, I can imagine how some people could take it really, really badly because it's just so much time to be upset, sad, depressed, think about all the mistakes you made, think about how much the year sucked, and you want to get back on the Rift and right the wrongs of the past season, but you just can't do it. There's just no games, there's no matches, there's no tournaments, and that's what kind of sucks about the current state of League of Legends esports. But I guess for people who like long holidays, long vacations, whatever, maybe it's a good thing. But at the beginning, there was a lot of postseason bitterness in which I really thought more about what would happen next year, and did not rest. After we decided to make changes and chose new players, I was able to relax a bit. I was on a 2-week vacation. I also streamed a lot, tried to keep playing LOL, watch Worlds, so my life hasn't changed much apart from being absent from Worlds. So obviously, it seems like he's holding up okay. Seems like he's handling things well. He's a positive guy. He's a veteran. He understands how these things go. Also, just understanding that this article is translated with Google Translate, so there might be some things a little bit off. Take everything with a grain of salt. They asked him how he felt about watching Worlds completely on the sidelines. He said he watched it very well. He cast a lot of the matches on his channel, although it's known that he would obviously prefer to be there. That's not a crazy take. The tournament was nice to follow, but I wasn't exactly the same as sitting on stage in Iceland competing against the best players from around the world. Totally get that, especially because if you kind of ended up on a team that sucks and you've been like, we're probably not even going to make it to Worlds, probably not going to do well, you kind of have the whole year to prepare, I think it'd be a little bit different. But G2 came into this year as a favorite to, win Worlds, or at least make it to the World Final, or at least make it to the World Semifinal. So the fact that they weren't even there at all, it's not like they bombed out in groups or something. to not make it at all had to be very, very shocking and very, very unsettling for all these players. He said, all in all, it was fun. After all, Worlds is Worlds, even if it was held without an audience by the COVID. I hope that in 2022 we will not only be able to qualify for Worlds with the new G2 squad, but also the tournament will return to their former formula with fans in the stadiums. And I think we're all hoping for that, obviously. Adds to the viewing experience, but also to the professional player experience. I cannot even imagine. The break was a time for additional reflection or thoughts. Did you quickly start focusing on the next challenges? He says he was mainly focused on next season. The thing is, we all really care about as pro players is to win. If we fail to win, then you think more about the next season, about what went wrong. And I think this will be a really, really good thing for Jankos and Caps and stuff, because we've heard, from Carlos how the team started to not care about the LEC. They started to not care about the regular season. They started to not care about winning. They started to take a lot of things for granted. Now, Jankos and Caps are reminded that it can all be taken away from you so quickly. If you are not constantly on your game, if you're not constantly, striving for greatness and trying to get better, not only are you not going to be able to find success at Worlds like, G2 was hoping for and wishing for, you're not even going to be able to win those LEC titles anymore. You're not even going to be able to go to LEC finals anymore. That stuff that you took for granted that you thought was so easy, it can be taken away from you so quickly. So I hope the G2 players that are still here, Jankos and Caps, come into the new year really caring about spring split, really caring about domestic titles, not because they matter, not because, G2 needs to prove themselves domestically or anything like that, but just because having it on all year long, in my opinion, is way better than trying to flip the switch on and off. We've seen this with Double Lift, him saying he doesn't care about spring split, and then all of a sudden he loses the ability to flip that switch on and off, and then, never really regains it. G2, I think, ran into those same issues. Now let's see if they actually are able to regain that ability to flip that switch on and off, because I think a lot of people, once they lose that ability, they never really get it back. The guy does ask, what are some important lessons from recent failures? He said spring split, in my opinion, was rather mediocre because I felt we didn't really contribute 100% to the game. Again, just what I was talking about. He said it's about the whole team. Maybe we settled on our laurels, and it seemed to us that we were the best and that no one can threaten us. We didn't try as we should. As for Summer, I don't regret anything except that it didn't work out. This is because we gave our 100% best effort. So again, hopefully they do come in with that mindset of needing to prove themselves right off the bat in 2022, and I fully expect that they will. Now, then the question will become, is this G2 lineup good enough even when trying their absolute best the whole season? And that, we will have to wait and see. This guy does say, literally one more question about spring, because you've described your feelings many times for split. Wasn't it a bit like after Reckless transferred, you believe the community was saying, which is that G2 is a band doomed to success? He said, honestly, I don't know. I can't answer. Maybe it was, but it's also possible that we just thought if we get to playoffs, we'll win them anyway. Each of us is a good experienced player, including Reckless, and they've been in the forefront for a long time. Unfortunately, we brutally collided with reality. It turned out that we were not that strong anymore, and new players such as Mad Lions can compete with us and win. It just wasn't the case with Mad Lions because we're also losing to other teams, and it was a big wake-up call. He said, how was the atmosphere in between splits? He said, we focused more on not repeating the same mistakes from spring. In the summer, we tried to change our game a bit, add a few characters to the champ pools. That's kind of funny, talking about when Carlos was, flaming Reckless's champ pool. Trying to eliminate mistakes. They tried to improve their game around Dragons and Heralds. They trained with MSI participants, and they also took place in, which also took place in Iceland. As a result, sometimes, of course, not every day, but 2 or 3 times a week, we played with teams from MSI to get ready for the summer games. During them, we also gave more than in spring. Now we need to find new players, but also trained with the teams from Worlds. Now every team is so serious about offseason, but G2 does have some pride. So he's talking more about the organization than the players since they appeared in the LEC. They've always been at the forefront. So this guy then does ask, he remembers back in spring that you felt you had to take on more responsibility as a leader, a person who would add or say something more from himself. Is this a natural role for you, or is it forced by lack of other candidates? He said he thinks it's half and half, and again, this is something that Carlos kind of touched on as well, that G2 was maybe missing that strong leader, that strong voice, and that it's hard to just, when a team's so familiar with you, it's hard to just become that strong voice, whether it was Jankos trying to fill those shoes, whether it was Grabs trying to fill those shoes, or whatever. And then, do you think that the team needs a captain, or is this role redundant because there must be synergy anyway? Everyone has to speak the same language. And he says it kind of depends on the players. He says, previously the leader role was Perks, even though he didn't do everything for himself. Many things happened because all of us were trying to win. Then we get to kind of the good, the juicy stuff. What was G2's initial idea for staffing change? First, it was decided who was leaving, and then you look for successors, or did you have your eye on somebody before? This is kind of the offseason stuff that we were looking for. He said they didn't have their eye on anyone because we believed until the end of the split that we would either win or at least do well. So, they weren't even thinking about offseason or changes because they still thought that they were this super team that was going to be able to flip the switch and come summer playoffs, all their wrongs will be righted. During the season, you only think about the next game. It is only after the end of the summer struggle that you begin to think about what went wrong and decisions are made about staff changes. The exceptions are situations in which player want to leave the team earlier, like before the end of the season. This was the case at Worlds this year when you heard of many reshuffles, even though the championship was still going on. Like Perks talking about wanting to leave Cloud9 already and stuff. And then even some other guys like Carzzy with Mad Lions and maybe even Hans Hama with Rogue. He said, for me, this is stupid because how can you think about changing the team while you're still working with your current teammates and are at the tournament? But that's a different topic. That's funny. Maybe throwing a little shade at Perks there. He did say in any case, the answer is that after the defeat with Fnatic, we had to recover. The decision to sideline Reckless, Mickey, and Wonder was a matter of days, or did internal deliberation take much longer? He said there were long conversations. Nothing really happened overnight. The organization itself made many decisions. I think that for the sake of all players, we shouldn't keep a fixed 5 or 4 anymore, as maybe, I don't know, we like each other too much. Maybe that G2 team became too comfortable with each other. They became too used to each other. They just weren't growing anymore. They weren't improving. And you can see that, by their year-over-year results, obviously. Sometimes changes are needed, and I sincerely hope Wonder grows more into Fnatic and Reckless grows more into K-Corp, and I'm also sure Mickey will be returning to the LEC next split or next year. When he has other people around him, he'll also be able to improve even more. Likewise, I hope the change of immediate surroundings will open both my and Caps' eyes, arouse a little fire again, and show a new perspective. Again, totally agree with that, and I expect that to happen. And I really, really hope it happens because, Caps and Jankos at their best just is an overall better viewing experience of competitive League of Legends. The game is changing all the time, and now we did not play the same, League of Legends as in 2019 or 2020. Skill shots or base mechanics have remained unchanged, but in fact, the game is completely different. He does then ask in an earlier interview, you suggested that the changes to G2 might have been different. For example, that someone from the Reckless Mickey Wonder trio may have stayed on the team and that you or Caps may have ended up on the outside of the squad as well. To your knowledge, were you really in danger of being removed from the team? Is there an alternate reality where G2 is no longer, or where Jankos is no longer the G2 jungler? He does say, I think so. I was not so afraid of it because, as I mentioned a moment ago, in my opinion, the changes were needed. If I had been removed from the squad, I would have accepted it. I think the other players approached the topic similarly. I sincerely hope no one feels they have been cheated. Nothing happened behind the players' backs. Everyone knew what was coming. Decisions were properly communicated. Yet, yes, there was a chance I wouldn't be playing for G2 in 2022. I would hope that it would be good for me, and in another formation, I could spread my wings even more and learn something new. Finally, the last question I want to go over here is this guy says at one point there was credible reports that you were negotiating an extension of your contract with G2, but according to Riot data, your contract is still expiring in a year. So can you respond to this? He said, regarding the topic, we have to wait for official information. I can only confirm that yes, I have negotiated with G2. Quite simply, when it comes to contractual issues, I'd rather wait for official announcements. It was similar when people asked me which players we would bring to the team, even though rumors had been circulating for a long time and everyone knew about all the squads because they had been leaked on the public forum. So it sounds like Jankos does not officially have a new shiny extension with G2, but that it is in the works and maybe even expected to be signed soon. But just hearing that there was a potential world and a potential avenue in which Jankos was replaced from G2, that he was not a lock in the roster is very, very interesting and makes me wonder, who else would G2 potentially have lined up as their jungler? Would they have went after a guy like Razork? Would they have went after a guy like Self-Made? Is there another option that, potentially G2 could have had? Would they have went with an ERL jungler? And then obviously, where would Jankos have ended up? Could he have been an option for, one of these other super teams? Could he, would Misfits have looked at him to replace Razork? Would Jankos have ended up on Fnatic? Would Jankos have maybe ended up on, Vitality? Would Jankos have been an option for Team Liquid or Cloud9 or one of these North American teams? There are just so many different ways this all could have gone. And then obviously the option of Jankos to, retire and be a full-time content creator as well, with how absolutely massive he is on YouTube and Twitch and all these other avenues. Jankos would have had a bright future ahead of him no matter what, but it just really would have never been the same, seeing him not on G2 and at least not giving this Captain Jankos duo one more real solid run at it. Now that they've had their wake-up call, now it's time for them to really put up or shut up in 2022, and I think it's going to be very fun and exciting to watch. But I did think this was also very, very interesting to hear, because, again, I did think some people were getting the impression that Jankos and Caps were the two hardcore locks and that their changes were going to be made around them. But it seems like G2 really considered worlds where potentially every single player, was on the move or safe, which I think is good for an organization to do. I think you at least have to evaluate those options. You at least have to give, thought to what some of those crazier moves or more unlikely moves would look like. I think you're not doing, the whole thing justice if you don't look at all the options as a whole. But that is pretty much every video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this news? Would you have liked to see Jankos, leave G2? What team would you have liked to see him on? Who would you have liked to see as the G2 jungler? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, save today, and all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.